open a beer and listen to those beer-loving cash flow guys.
Hey, we are live. This is episode 77, and this is Mike and Blaine. I'm Mike Milan, also known as Cashflow Mike, and that, my friend, is Blaine Birch, the CEO of Dry Run, and my partner right here on the podcast. What's up, man?
I think we're streaming live to like 3 different platforms right now, which is a record for us. Like we're all over the place today. So this is you're gonna start calling me producer Blaine because I somehow managed, I think, to get these going live in 3 places. So we'll see.
Hey, does it look like the lights flickering on my side? I know it says the video like is higher quality, but
it looks good in the end. So I think I don't know, maybe have weird lights, but I think we'll be okay.
All right, so this is episode 77, and as you see, I've got my hat on for the big game this weekend.
Yes, I totally forgot you're a KC fan, so that's this is a big weekend for you, man.
Dude, I gotta tell you what. All right, so I have been a Kansas City fan from the early 90s. And, you know, I mean, once you see Joe Montana in a Chiefs uniform, you're pretty much in, right? You're pretty much set for life. Then there was a group of us that had season tickets, for years over there, and it was just an amazing experience. But I was a season ticket holder when they were heartbreakers, right? We were like lovable losers. Like we were just like always just kind of plug along. We were good enough to get you excited, not good enough to win anything. It took 50 years. Do you know when they won the Super Bowl a few years back? I think it was 2019 or early 20. It had been 50 years since their last Super Bowl win. That was my whole life. My whole life, they had never won a Super Bowl. So it was exciting. I was crying, man. Absolutely crying. Then they went back. They lost 2 years later. And now we're back again, right?
Yeah. No, that's a big one. I'll flip it on. I'll root for KC just to support you.
Yeah, you better. Or I don't know what's going to happen to our friendship.
Yeah, okay. I'll find a hat or something. I must have something going on.
And speaking of, I put a poll on my Facebook group, and Shane, one of my best friends, picked Philly. What the hell?
No.
What the hell? On the Facebook poll. I mean, are you doing that to screw with me? What's happening here?
Yeah, that seems a little suspicious right there. So,
all right, what you drinking today? What are we going to be doing?
What I picked out today is from Revision Brewing, and I failed to look up because I was busy streaming where Revision is. So I'm going to look it up while you're doing this, and I'll mention it later. It's a cool can. It's called Dr. Lupulin Diabolical Indiana Pale Ale. It's a double. It's a triple. I did not realize this. I should have read it before. It's 11.3%. So you might be carrying us by the end because that's it's good beer though. So whatever. But it's diabolical. I guess is right. That's a heavy hit.
I never have to carry you. I mean, usually you get a little chatty, so I have to kind of interrupt.
Cut me off. Cut me off. Exactly. It's like,
you're not slurry. You're not sleepy. You're just chatty.
just yeah.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad if you got to cut me off, man.
Okay, so this is the month of Neighbor Pat, right? The month of Neighbor Pat. So he just left the house. He has brought me a vanilla porter.
Nice.
Don't you love how he even makes a glass? You know, he writes on the glass whatever he's bringing me.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome, man. That's
once
great.
again, I guess I have to drink another pitcher of Pat beer.
That's
here's the problem with somebody that brews beer at his house. I have no idea how much alcohol is in this. I mean, I could be slurry, I could be sleepy, I could be chatty. You never know.
Yeah, this might be might be we're both napping by the end and live. It'll go live for about 6 hours till one of us wakes up and starts chatting again here. So, but I'm confident. We've both had pretty heavy beer before on these things, so we'll be fine.
All right, so it's an amazing experience that Neighbor Pat has said, hey, let me just sponsor it for the month, right? And here's what I offered to him through text message this week. But I'm going to say it on the podcast because I know he listens to the podcast. I know he does. Pat, go to our merch store. I sent you the link. You pick out anything you want, and I'm gonna send it to you. Right. So Pat, you do that. That's going to be your thing, right?
And Pat, I saw our merch store this month or this week, and Mike had put up some shirts and stuff, and then I'm going to tell you. Then I put up some shirts because Mike made a flesh colored shirt that I thought was really weird. So I got some like white and black that are just kind of nice. So
all right, so let me explain the flesh colored shirt. Right, it was like you made the new logo, and it's got that beigeish. I don't even know what color the background is.
I don't know, tan. I don't know.
In our choices of shirt colors, it was the only one that made it kind of just disappear.
Yeah, that's don't want it to sort of disappear. But see, I cut one out. I made one where the floating heads float on, and I got this one where the giant head's on the back of the shirt. I don't know if you saw them.
I'm definitely getting that one.
Yeah, I kind of like.
And you know what? You made the mug, the
mug,
coffee mug. I'm like, shit, I gotta get one of those too.
I'd get one of those too. I like the mug. Yeah. Yeah, Heather was saying, just like, get the mug. Like,
so if you haven't seen it, just go to mikeandblaine.com, click on merch. Oh, and by the way, we redid the website. I mean, we're actually turning this into a business, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Accidentally on purpose. Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah, and when we say redid the website, this is not like a $100,000 job. We spent another half hour on it, but it looks great. It actually looks a lot better. So,
you click the button that says "Make this the homepage."
Exactly.
It used to be the podcast page. Now it's the homepage.
Yeah, exactly. So let's not get the expectations super high, but you know what, we've been doing a lot, and you know what, we deserve a little bit of we deserve a little bit of clapping.
Oh yeah. See? Gregor was asking me where that's been. He goes, "Where? How come you're not using your sound effects?"
I mentioned it after last episode at the end. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I forgot we have sound effects because I got to open the tab up and then I have to click a little live button and stuff. So now I won't overdo it, I promise. But we do have some little sound effects that I can work in, which are kind of fun. So,
well, I can tell you that's how I know people were listening though. They're coming back with stuff. They're like, "Hey, you got this great new thing. It looks better. It sounds better. You're not using the cool features though."
Yeah, but we do like we got these little intro video, the start and outro video at the end. So I wonder if I can add, because this is like the drum joke, like they got those, but. I'm wondering if I can actually, I'm sure I can add sound effects. So I'll have to go online and see if I can find some uniquely, or maybe I can make some sound effects, a beer pouring sound effect or something. That's what we need here. We can do a little like some fun beer related and biz related sound effects, hopefully. So
dude, I'm excited. I'm excited. Season 3, best one yet. We're getting some shit together here. We're tightening up here. We're tightening up.
Yeah, we are. This is Ray Bork's episode right here.
Yeah, there you go. I
wasn't sure if you're going to pick that one up. Okay, I wasn't sure we could pick that one up, but
he's a hockey player, right?
Yeah, he's an outstanding. It was an outstanding hockey player.
Barely noticeable. People I doubt if half the people even know who he is.
I will say that
10% of the people that listen to this podcast know who he is.
I will say that I would guess that 90% of Canadians recognize the name Ray Bork, and probably 10% of Americans recognize the name Ray Bork. But that's just how it goes, man. That's all right.
Well, I have a good friend that's Canadian, so occasionally, I pick up on Canadian things.
We got to indoctrinate you here, so it's coming slowly but surely.
Speaking of indoctrination, that pool that I've been bitching about for 6 months. Yeah. Almost done. The waterfall went in. It's working. Waterfall stuff's coming out of it. Cap of it needs to go on. We're going to more sod and finishing touches, man. The next couple of weeks, done. We'll be done. So ready for the birches. Yeah, we'll be ready for the birches to come down.
That would be, oh man, that'd be outstanding. That'd be so much fun. And when we're done this, you may have to do a little video clip tour for the watchers. I don't know, the listeners probably be quite as interesting, but the watchers, they get to see.
You know what I could do? We do have an Instagram page with 10 followers, right? So we put it up. I just started. First of all, thanks for following, because we haven't done anything with it. So thanks for following, but I started putting the merch up there lately.
Oh, I was going to say, hey, we should start an Instagram page for Mike and Blaine. And then apparently we have one. I might have followed it and not even remember doing that. So, okay. I got to get the login too so I can start doing some stuff. Yeah.
So Facebook, we have a Facebook page. We got an Instagram page. I'll do that. I'll actually do the grand tour and I'll post it on Facebook or,
nice.
But I think if you go look at that, if you just go there to just see my pool, then you should subscribe or like and those type of things as well.
Do that. Go check it out and subscribe.
Pay your dues, man. I'm paying dues. You pay it back.
Exactly. I'll go onto Instagram and I'll also share the bird bath we have in the backyard because that'll be our pool. This little fountain. Not quite as excited. Yeah. Not quite to the level of a pool, but hey, it's got a little water.
All right. So the topic today. All right. Another last minute topic because Pat had, I got to, entertain Pat when he comes over. I don't entertain him. I felt bad because I had a coaching client run long. So I'm actually coaching while Pat's trying to bring the beer in. So I felt bad that I wasn't there to hang out with Pat. But here's what I chose, all right? Estee Lauder. I think it's makeup, right? That's makeup, I think.
I was going to say, yeah, I thought it might be perfume, makeup. I'm not sure.
Maybe it's perfume. All right, so
something like that. I'm not sure.
Is credited with the saying, trust your instincts.
Nice. I like that. Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about trusting your instincts.
Yes. Yeah. I remember reading something about trusting, and it was basically the same thing. It was trust your gut. And I don't recall if it's something I read or if it even came up on the show, but this has stuck with me since I saw this. And it was trust your gut, trust your instincts. Why this expert said trust your gut is because it's actually pattern recognition. And I found that really interesting because it's this idea of it's sort of a mysterious, sort of hairy-fairy, you trust your gut. But what their argument was, no, it's not. It's pattern recognition. It's subconscious. It's in the back of your mind. You maybe don't recognize why, but somewhere in your brain, it's matching one and one and saying this is an issue or this is a good thing.
Yeah, so interesting, right? Because Simon Sinek, you know him, Simon Sinek. He wrote I forget what it was, like Start with Why, or he's got this thing called the Golden Circle. And if you watch the YouTube video, and it's quite a few years old, it might be like 10 years old or older. This video with millions of hits. He describes the brain, right? The brain is in three parts. It's the outer part, which is what he calls the neocortex, right? That's kind of our Homo sapien brain that that we can use language. That's where your language comes from. Rational thought, logical thought, all those type of things come from there. But the inner two parts of your brain are called the limbic brain, and it has no capacity for language. But he's of the opinion, and probably medically he's right, right, or psychologically he's right. I don't know. It's biology or whatever it is. He's of the opinion that all decisions are made in the limbic part of the brain. And what I mean by that is when you fall in love, when you vote for somebody, when you buy from somebody, whatever that is, that decision is made in the limbic part of the brain, and then we surround it with things that we can articulate, of why I want to do this, why I want to do that. But he says sometimes you can't even describe why you feel the way you feel. Yeah. He goes, you said, it just doesn't feel right. He says, well, why do I say those words? Why do I say it doesn't feel right?
Yeah.
And I think this is what it goes to, is what you're saying is a pattern recognition, and it happens inside the brain to make you decide to do things, right? To actually make you move or motivate you to take another action.
Yeah. So like I said, you can't necessarily probably can't articulate without stopping and thinking, or sometimes you may never be able to, but your brain is using whatever it has, that verbal part of your brain is using whatever it has to make that decision. That's really interesting to think that all decisions, I suppose, would be influenced by logic and everything else, but ultimately that's the CEO of your, that's the you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. I teach a concept in my course that says successful business owners are chameleons. And what that means is the people that are really successful at either selling their business or selling a product or a service to somebody else, they actually can identify the social style of the person they're talking to within seconds and mirror it. Right? Mirror it, right? The social styles model was like, are you a driver or an expressive or an analytical or an amiable person? Yeah. But it's like, all right, let me give you the example. If you were going to buy a car, right? And you wanted to buy, or you could buy the same car in 3 different directions from your house, all 2 miles away. So distance doesn't matter. You can buy the same car, same price, same features, everything is the same. Who do you choose? And it generally comes down to the person you first interact with, right? I mean, have you ever just walked up to somebody and go, doesn't feel right, don't like that person, right? You don't even know why. You're just like, cringy, right? Yeah. Car salesman, I don't know. Yeah. But there's something there that you don't like instantly. Yeah. And it's because, I think it's because the social styles model doesn't match. I might be an analytical person. Well, you can't be a driver to me, which means you can't overwhelm me with, task and result. I do this, those type of things. Or you can't be too expressive if I'm an amiable person, which means I'm more of kind of a wallflower, kind of, soft-spoken, those type of things. If you're an expressive personality, like going, hey, great, we're on the team together. This is going to be great. You're going to buy a car for me. If you're that type of person, I'm instantly going to back away.
Yeah.
And you can't describe why a lot of times. It just happens instantly.
Does that fly in the face of opposites attract?
Ooh, that's really interesting. I think, yeah. All right, think about this. Courtney and I are similar but different. Yeah. Right? Similar but different, because I think I'm much more. Here's the thing about the social styles model, is that any of us could be any of those things at any given situation, right? I mean, yes. There are situations where I'm amiable. I'm like, oh, no, know anybody here? Or don't know who to talk to or what to do. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, so I'm not bulldozing my way in as a driver, right? Yeah. Or an expressive person. Well, when we met, well, I'm courtship mode, right? So I'm having a more vivacious personality, and I don't think she liked it at first.
Okay, yeah.
So think about that. Did opposites really attract? But we went into the same scenario opposite. Hers was more amiable. Mine was more expressive driver. Yeah. So well, and I think the idea that opposites attract is, and vice versa, is it's a little bit of a polarized view, because of course my wife and I share a lot of, we're very similar in a lot of our sort of worldview and things, but there's some areas where we are completely opposite. Just she's a rules person, everything's negotiable from my point of view, right? Very different, but the fundamental things are same. And so I think there's probably there's these crossover points, and there's maybe the important part where it's you got to be similar in this way, but that part's okay if it's different. And it's because there are those parts where it's do you if you walk in, you're talking, like I said, buying a car. Am I looking for someone with my personality, or if someone comes up and they're just there's a point where I would a type probably find very off-putting, and then there's a type I would probably find very different from me, but maybe really comfortable, maybe very comfortable with them, right? Yeah, I think there's a lot of examples now where opposites attract is just false. Yeah, you could see it. All right, so on dating apps, I saw this on the news. On dating apps, people say I'm a this and don't talk to me if you like this person. Like, you would think that you would want that person if opposite attracts.
Well, but I think that's the thing is there's probably, if it came down to, there probably is a science. We, of course, as you qualifying here on here, we don't know what the hell we're talking about. So just like, hopefully you enjoy, but we make shit up the entire time. But I think there's places where, like I said, like with Heather and I, we're very similar in so many ways, but very opposite in these other ways. And maybe the most consequential ways were very similar, the ones that really matter. But if you didn't have a bit of the opposite, it's like, do you really want to live with your clone? Like, I think that'd be kind of weird, right? Like I think there has to be, like you see in couples most of the time, there's one's is a little bit more outgoing than the other one, or a little bit of this and that, like just that, because it's almost like business partners in a way. Like you sort of fill the gaps, some of the important gaps, but you have to have the same goals, the same worldview, so you have to be very similar, but there's these specific parts where you have to be different to be able to be effective, to function well.
Yeah, because I think in a lot of ways, like Courtney and I are similar, right? But I think there's some ways that, especially in situations, if you've seen this, they go, nope, he's that and she's this. All right, I think I can agree with you there. Now, here's my problem with trust your instinct, right? Because you're really talking to yourself. You should trust your own instinct. I'm like going, I've seen me make some dumbass decisions. I've seen me do dumb things. So I'm like going, should I really trust my decisions?
Here's a question though, and this is going to be harder to probably answer, but when you made a mistake, what I'd be curious about was, did you make that decision based on what you thought was logical, or was it actually on your gut? Because I can actually think of times where I think I look back and go, I should have, like how many times you thought, should have trusted my gut, but I talked myself out of it. I went with logic, and there was something in my gut that was saying, no, you're not going to like that sandwich as much as the other sandwich, or whatever it is, right?
Well, I think what you just described is your gut fills in the gap. There's a gap between, I've got 4 steps, right? A, B, C, D. I can see all the steps except for C. C's like, I don't know what's going on at C. So my gut tells me either A, it's good for me because it makes a logical conclusion between, or a logical step between B and D, or my gut says, there's way too much unknown there. This is scary. We shouldn't do it. Right? I think that gut is your brain filling in the blanks.
Yeah. Well, like I'll say, like there's when I'm making a decision on something, and like Heather always says, if we go to buy something, she goes, yeah, you research the fun out of it, because I have to do my research. Like I cannot just go buy. So like, it's like, I need to know it's got to be the best one. It's got to be high quality, and it's got to be this, and it's the best price. And I do my research, but I don't have trouble making a decision. Like once I'm like, got it, I make a decision, and that's what it is. Like, it's just like, that's it. And I never look back. And so it's almost like I'm feeding the logic part until the limbic brain or the lizard brain or whatever you're talking about goes, which I think they call that the lizard brain. I didn't make that up. Will suddenly go, do that. So I think there's times where it's very much fed. You're feeding and feeding and feeding, but it's still at the end going, yep, go. Now you're going. But there's other times when you rely on that brain to recognize that pattern recognition and make an instantaneous decision because you're trusting your instinct. Like I'll say last year we were walking through, we had gone down to Calgary, and we were checking out a bunch of breweries down in Calgary. Actually, we were walking through between a couple of breweries, and I looked up, and there was someone that was high on something that was much more dramatic than pot or something. Like they were having a fight with the air. And there was no logic there. Like when I looked up, I knew without a shadow of a doubt, split second, no thinking about it, this is not a good situation. And it was weird because he turned and he locked eyes, and it was like Terminator. He locked eyes and he started walking straight towards Heather and I. And I just grabbed her and we went across the street the other direction. And fortunately, he walked into traffic, and I think there was a little bit of like a car kind of came up close and locked its brakes and stuff. And it actually distracted him enough that he wandered off the other way. But there was no logic there, right? Like that was there was no, it was just immediately in my brain. You're not thinking, well, I wonder, this guy probably has addiction problems. No, it was this instantly back of my brain, danger. We are going that way. Like there was no hesitancy. Right. And so that was that part of the brain that just, and I think again, it kind of probably comes to that pattern recognition or whatever, that this is danger, and there's no logic or inner monologue about that. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like being a police officer. There's just certain scenarios, and maybe it's the repetition. It's still pattern recognition. When I see people start to twitch like this, when I'm trying to put handcuffs on them, they're going to fight. Or you just know that you're going to have to fight. It's one of those things where it's. I think that's true. Would you consider it to be the fight or flight mode? Is what what I think you just described was. Hey, I got to make a decision now. It's do I fight? Do I run?
Yeah, like that's the thing is that, like, if I look back, there was no, you're like this because this happens in a split section and you're not this, and I'm looking, I'm going, flight, we're going that way. And now I will say that the only way we could go from where he was we had to basically cross the street through traffic. We were literally going across the street where there was only a railroad. Like there was no buildings, so it was actually kind of like, this is not the best place to go, right? But where we were and where he was, it was the only direction to go. And it's flight. But it was an instantaneous flight. And you hope that it doesn't sort of turn into, well, we don't have an option now, right? It's plan B. But it was like that sort of thing where there was literally no thought, no inner monologue. It's just you're making a decision instantaneous, and you have to make that split second decision. We are going here, and if that doesn't work, now we're into plan B. And fortunately it worked out. And it's like, there's a side of it is like, yeah, that's an awful situation for that person and everything, but in that split second, all it is danger. And how do I protect Heather, and how do we get out of this situation, right? And it was interesting because it was all that 100% instinct. There was no, there was no other. But what made me recognize what made that part of my brain recognize that was danger? Like if I was 16 years old, would I have recognized it was danger? I'm not sure. Probably, maybe, I don't know. But or was it experience over time knowing that's not a good situation, right?
You know what's funny about that? You think about, would you recognize it as danger? I know 2 times as a kid, and I'm talking about the first time maybe I'm a 10-year-old kid, the second time maybe I'm a 12-year-old kid, right? 2 different times where the actions of one person, like you described, made me scared. One time was 10 years old. I'm walking out of the grocery store, middle of the day. It might be 1, 2 in the afternoon during the summer. I'm walking to the grocery store to get on my bike because we just went. It was only like 3 blocks away. Got on my bike, go over there, and you buy candies and stuff like that, right? That's what you do when you're a kid. I come out, and you can't judge age when you're a kid. So I'm going to say 30s. Guys in his 30s, might have been 40s, might have been 19. But as a kid, everybody's old. It's older than me, and he's got a beard.
Yeah.
And he comes up and says, hey, can you go inside and get me whatever, right? It may have been as innocent as anything, but I'm like going, here's an adult asking a kid to go in the store for him. He'd probably be banned from the store for some. As an adult, I can rationalize it. At that point in time, I'm going, that's weird. I'm not supposed to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I was out.
Yeah.
Right. And the other time was just a guy walking down the street acting erratically. And he yelled at us, we yelled at him, and he ran at us, and we ran. And I remember ripping the back door, screen door off. I was so scared. I just pulled on it, and it came off the hinges. And that was a whole different conversation with my dad later. Because there's no guy there, He just kept walking. So I had to explain to my dad how I ripped the door off the hinges. It was some scary dude walking down the street.
Well, it's amazing because like what we're talking about is those that, like exactly you said, that fight or flight mechanism that makes those sorts of decisions. It's so interesting because if you said fight or flight, that's what people think. Emergencies and potential like danger and these sorts of things. And like, yeah, you're 10 years old. You probably don't have a lifetime of experience, but you recognize something weird. And this is interesting. We did work back in my agency days for like a self-defense expert, and she was on like had a whole business. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember, and I don't remember even what we made, a CD-ROM or something. I can't remember, but what I do remember that was interesting, and there's a comment I'll never forget, was just in passing, we were talking and she goes, parents should teach their kids about strangeness, not strangers. And basically what she said was, if you make your kids scared of every single stranger, and they're in a basically like this fight or flight situation, she goes, what do? They run and hide. And they run and hide, and the only one that saw where they hid was the strange person. Yeah. If you teach them about strangeness versus stranger, they're more likely to recognize, well, there's a police officer, I'll go to them. Or there's, this, like a family of 4 and da-da-da, I'll go to, like, it helped identify where you go for help, not you're scared of everybody. But that's those sorts of...
Hey, that's powerful. That's powerful. I mean,
yeah.
Love the way you put that, or she put that. And, if you can identify... And I think we try to do that with kids now, saying, it's weird. It's not normal, right? Yeah. It helping them identify things that are weird, not normal. Yeah. It doesn't seem right.
But what's interesting is that when you think of the fight or flight or instinct, this is the type of stuff you're thinking about. The fight or flight, the oh, that looks dangerous. There's something wrong with that. But what's interesting is you start to realize how much does that creep into other decisions. And when you said every decision is based on that, if that's true or whatever, that one spot, it kind of changes my view a little bit of, okay, if you're making business decisions, they're not necessarily a short term. They're not a fight or flight. Make sure you're feeding the logic side so your limbic side is actually making the right decision, because it's got to come to that ultimate decision. And the more info it has, maybe the better off you are, right?
Yeah, but I would say this, it's still a fight or flight decision, even in the short term. Even if how minor the decision is, I either choose yes or no, right? It's like going, I'm going to do it, which means I'm going to fight it, right? Not fight like box, but yeah, I'm going to engage, or I'm not going to engage, which is the flight.
Yeah. I want to add just a tiny bit onto the end of the story because, okay. All this little drama happens. We're walking down the street. We go to the next brewery.
You say drama?
Drama. It's a drama. I don't know. Is it drama or drama? Like pasta. We had some good pasta last night, by the way. We went to Trado, which is Chris Bianco's, who's on Netflix right now, his other restaurant. Ridiculous. It was unbelievable. Like, anyway, I'm side note there, but it was just such a fun experience. So we got to the brewery at the end, and we sat down, like, we're kind of shaking a bit, and we grabbed some beer and ordered pizza, and then the beer comes out and the pizza comes out. And here is this instinctual thing was I opened the box of pizza, and without even logically looking at it, I knew that is way too much pizza. Like, it was like a 1.5 by 1.5 and probably like 3 inches thick. And I'm like, that's another instinct. You're like, oh my God. And we felt bad because we basically each had a piece and a half, and he left like 5 pounds of pizza there. But I'm like, that's too much pizza. Like I knew right away. Didn't have to. That's experience, pattern recognition.
Yeah, but we've talked about that before. Remember, I said in the restaurants, the serving sizes. You're like, oh, we're just wasting food. We're just absolutely wasting food the whole time. So it's funny. Hey, speaking of about halfway done,
and it is you, Cashflow Mike, this week.
It is all right. So it's Cashflow Mike. This episode is sponsored to you. Or sponsored by, or brought to you by, look how I mix those two together. Cashflow Mike. All right, so I'm going to tell you what. 14 companies, 20 plus years. 22 now, I think. I've found $1.5 million in hidden cash for my clients in January 2023. Yeah. Most of them in 30 minutes or less. I want to do that for you. If you're a business owner out there, do it right now. Go to cashflowmike.com. Book one of my calls, just the free call, 30 minutes. I will find you. I will guarantee you I will find you $20,000 and give you a plan to go get it. That's my offer. How about that, Blaine?
Yeah, and you know what? I want to say to people out there that this is not like some kind of like hairy-fairy bullshit coaching or something like that where like – because there will be people out there that haven't had, like Mike, 14 companies and don't have that experience. And I know full well personally, I've experienced that where you have money leaking out the bottom. And we're not talking, there's no magic here. I will preface this. There's no magic. It's literally just identifying some really, when you look back afterwards, obvious places where you're losing money in your business. Very pragmatic, very practical ways to build on those systems and processes to fix it. And in the end of the year, it's going to make a whole pile of money for you. It's that clear. And we do a lot of that at Dry Run. We help you find those peaks and valleys and sort of Mike and I kind of have the same mentality because we've seen it. We see it all the time. Right. And yeah, go check that out because I guarantee you're going to find that money and it's going to be a head slap. You're going to go, damn, that's money I can recoup without doing a hell of a lot, to be honest.
And you walk away with a skill that you can repeat. Mm-hmm. Every time you fall in the bag of habits, you've got a skill to fall back on to find it and get it back for yourself. So,
yeah, you're losing every year. You're losing every single year with some simple things. Fix it, and like Mike said, he'll guarantee 20,000. I guarantee you, that's 20,000. Like in this little instance, you fix that, you patch it, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, and there's going to be more than that I think Mike will be able to find for you. So I think it's worth it.
Hey, that's why I guarantee 20.
20 is an easy one. Like, honestly, it's an easy one. It's low. That's low hanging fruit.
Yeah, but 20,000 changes people's lives right now. I mean, it really does. When you can put that back in your pocket, and I go for quick, easy wins. I mean, our call will be about finding quick, easy wins, 2 or 3 action steps you can take to put $20,000+ back in your pocket this month. So.
Yeah. But cashflowmike.com, correct?
That's it. That's it.
All right.
Yeah. That's an easy one, right? For once, I finally got an easy URL. Well, not as easy as dryrun.com, but it's an easy URL.
Thanks for the little mention. Yeah, you check us out too.
No, I mean, you and I got a partnership. I mean, it's working. I think it's a natural fit from a guy that teaches cash flow to a tool that provides you with cash flow forecasting. It's a natural fit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how we met. And I know we don't talk about it much on this show, but that's how we met, was through the cash flow, which is kind of funny, but it's how we met. So.
Yeah, do you remember how we met? Jeremy sent me your book.
I didn't realize that was the first sort of point that, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, he reached out for some reason. I think, I forget why he reached out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I told him I was working on a book, and then, my boss already has one.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's fun, man. We've exchanged books and we've signed them, and it's super fun. So that's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, okay, so you know what, we've been talking about kind of the fight or flight type thing. The negative kind of text. What about making a decision where you know it's going to be right, it's going to be good, even though everything's telling you no, right? Because sometimes a startup life is like that. Everybody's saying, yeah, it's a dumb idea, you shouldn't do it. And you know in your heart, you're like going, this is going to work, man. It just feels right.
Yeah, it's I remember I was when we were driving down to Scottsdale this year, we had a bunch of podcasts on. I remember this one podcast was talking about. I'm going back a few months now, so I can't even remember the companies and that. But it was a business that had raised. First of all, they had an engine that was kind of working, and it was working okay. Based on that, they'd raised something like $30 million, like an incredible amount of money. Got their burn rate up to. I don't remember, hundreds of thousands a month. And the founder was talking about realizing they were actually chasing the wrong channel, chasing the wrong customer base. And the interviewer, it was Guy Raz on How I Built This. I just can't remember which episode it was, like what the business was. But he said, well, what happened to your MRR, though? Your monthly recurring revenue. And this guy said it went from about 20 to 30 grand. $30 million generated 10 grand a month. Obviously broken beyond, like just broken, right? And but he said that the challenge was they realized there was a fundamental issue in their market, but I think they were having trouble accepting it. And the problem was they had wrapped everything around this idea. The investors all said, nope, that's a smart idea. And it's like the data doesn't show it, but the investors kept pushing. You just got to push more. You got to push more. You got to push more. Eventually, he was literally drummed out of the business. The business failed. But what was interesting was his business partner bought the business, picked up the ashes basically of the business, recognized this fundamental difference, changed their product somewhat, and changed the market because he saw where they should have gone and was building a successful business. No investment. Wow. So it was just absolutely amazing where you could just feel the pressure on this guy. Everybody was saying, you just got to keep going. And he knew it's not going to work with this group. And they failed because of that.
Yeah, that's a big realization you have, right? When you know what you're working on, ideas great, execution, people around you, support around you, funding around you, can't make it happen. You just can't execute.
Yeah, and we even internally with Dry Run, we've done not that dramatic, to be honest, not that dramatic, but we were focused very heavily on CPAs and helping them advise their clients on their cash flow and trying to figure out where they're going and that. And we realized that they struggled, and yet the businesses kept coming to us with this problem. And we finally realized we can help a business owner. We can help that internal team. It's like straight to the we can offer the most value, the most benefit, going straight to the people that are fighting, the people that are on the front lines. And like I said, not as dramatic, but it was actually a hard transition after we had like CPA.com and Intuit and everybody going like, you guys are on the ball, you guys are helping these CPAs, and we still do. They still come to us, but realizing our bread and butter, where we can help the most, is making the decision to say, let's go talk with businesses. They need us right now, today, and we can help them more.
All right, so I got a real life example about that. 7 years I thought about an idea, built it, ran into a bad partnership. It's a product that flopped.
Yeah.
That is still a good idea today. It's still a good idea. I still feel it, right? And if I have to redo it, I can do it for half the money because I already worked out. Already worked out 8 months of bugs. I already worked it out. Yeah. So it's one of those things where maybe like your friend, for a very little investment, if any, I can get that up off the ground somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, like that's the thing is you learn through that experience, but you also like that's the other side of it is your gut tells you that's a good idea, that the need is there, but your gut is probably relying on years of talking with customers and seeing the problem and understanding it inside out. Powers that, right?
And nobody has all the inputs that you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You can't sit in front of a VC. That's where sometimes I think they don't see it.
Yep.
Right? Because the VC will go, never heard of that before.
Yeah.
That should tell you something. That should be a buying signal from you.
Yeah. Well, and we could do an entire episode on, and I'm not like not an entire episode of criticizing VCs, but an entire episode on how, as a founder and sort of an innovator, how do you actually like relay this story to somebody that is like they're walking in deciding, are you onto something, and do we invest in it, and finding that right person to work with, right?
Yeah, what's funny is that like one of the first things they do is like going, would I do that? It's like this, meaning that we're all normal. Am I even a buyer for this? Before they figure out who your ideal customer is, they try to put themselves in the buyer's shoes while they're evaluating your idea.
Yeah. And like for us, I will tell you, like, cause I've had investor, like a lot of our investor meetings have just gone really good. Like they're just, people get what we're doing. Right. But there's times you go in and I'll know within 4 seconds, like they don't understand what we're doing. And generally it's because they have never, like we've talked about, they have never been responsible for payroll. Right.
See, that's my problem with like hedge fund managers and stockbrokers and all those guys. They've never put their own money on the line for a business.
Yeah.
In the stock market, I lost, $50,000 in this trade.
Who cares?
Yeah. But you didn't control any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not responsible for people's jobs. And when you say people's jobs, it's so easy to just go people's jobs. No, it's a bunch of people that that have mortgages and families, and like the pressure there is like that is a different level. And like if I say cash flow, just the word two words, cash flow, and their business owner that's responsible for that, the hair on the back of their neck will probably stand up a little bit of reaction, like, oh man, yeah, like ugh. Especially when they got that real volatile cash flow. But someone that's never done it, they just like, no, like don't care, right?
You know what's funny is that I start to categorize people when I say the word cash flow. If I say it to a business owner, they think their bank account. If I say it to an accountant, they think, oh, what's in and what's out. If I say it to a banker, it's a whole different thing. They're thinking about, well, how much money can I lend, right? It's like, how much can they afford? It's like a whole different, and they're all like different calculations even. They're like going, so even the two words cash flow means something different depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah. And it's and like it always makes me shudder when a business owner thinks cash flow is their bank account, because of like, man, running from your bank account is deadly. Like that's too hard. It's too hard. There's too many risks in that. Maybe the lizard brain keeps them up at night, but
yeah. Well, I mean, but their thought process, either I have money or I don't.
Thought process, yeah. But will I have money?
Yes,
is an important one, right?
Yeah, right. That's right. So I'm trying to think of a time outside of my last software product. I'm trying to think of another time where I was just the hotel staffing company. That was like a weird anomaly. Like going, nobody would have told me, yeah, that's what you should start. And remember, I left janitorial service, doing the work, to just providing the workers, because I'm like, that's going to work. That's what people need. I can get, when you compete in the janitorial world, it's low bid contracts. Who's going to clean my building the cheapest?
Yeah. But what I will say is that wasn't your instinct telling you that was right. What it was your instinct recognizing the information. There was, because you have these conversations with clients, right?
Yeah.
What it is, like you have this long conversation over and over again. What that part of your brain does, and this is interesting because it goes from like how valuable it is compared to the logic side. You might not have recognized the opportunity consciously. But as you're talking with clients, your lizard brain in the back of your mind there started to go, this one has this problem, this one has this problem, this one has this problem. And you started to see a pattern and went, wait a minute, everybody is missing this. This is where I have an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you may have never come up with that answer logically, but somewhere your subconscious went, yep, this is how it works, right?
That's why there's so many businesses out there successful that you never hear of. They just do their one thing. They go, hey, Boeing needs this one part, and guess what? I have just the machine to produce 1 million of those on demand when they need it.
Yep. I'm gonna go a little different direction here because I am. Here's a tactic I use to solve business problems, and it is really effective. So if you're trying to solve a business problem and you're sitting there, the natural thing is to fill your mind with more stuff. And there's some value to that, right? Your mind can't, I don't think can put it all together. And I will tell you, when I'm trying to solve a problem and you're filling your brain with more and more stuff, it gets clogged. And the number of times that I've come up with an answer when I'm on a bike is unbelievable, and it's repeatable. And what I'm convinced is that once you've got enough information for your brain to work, when you're sitting there consciously trying to figure something out, you're just getting in the way. Mm-hmm. And it's what I've found over the years is I hop on my bike, I go for a hard ride, and at some point you're not thinking about anything because you're watching the traffic and this and that, and the answer pops up. Yeah. And it's that instinct kicking in and going, here's the answer. I've done all the calculations in the background while you were, doing your foreground stuff. Here's the answer.
I don't know how many times I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh shit, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just because I allowed my brain to do its work.
Yeah, I used to leave I should do it again, but I used to have a pad, like a notepad right by my bedstand for those instances, right? And sometimes it was useful, and sometimes it was like just completely rambling bullshit. Whatever.
I had one of those too. Matter of fact, with a consulting client, it was just, I was on a 2-day in-person work meeting.
Yeah.
And my client made a couple comments and a couple questions. Then I'm going, well, I'm going back in tomorrow. I'm just going to think about this tonight. My brain was working. I got up. I wrote it down. Nice. Just what I wrote down. And in the morning, I'm going, okay, I got an hour to digest this. No idea no idea what it was. I had fragmented thoughts. I'm going, yeah, shit, that seemed to work because remember when you're dreaming, you're kind of in that dream state. Yep. There's no rules.
Yeah, exactly.
I could just float over there and do this.
The purple fish eaten by a flamingo, that doesn't make any sense for this.
Yeah, so I wouldn't trust your dream self, but occasionally you get a nugget. You're like, oh yeah, I can build on that. I can build on that nugget. But yeah, I would trust bike thought over dream thought any day.
Yes, and I like I said, I used to have a pad by my bed. I don't anymore, probably because I'm like, I don't know. But when I'm on my bike, there have been times that I've literally slammed the brakes, side of the road, pull out my phone, and type in notes. And then when I get back to the office, I'm like, I've got it, and I build on it. And it's just this massive shortcut. And you know what? For entrepreneurs, so often it's like, I got to do an 80-hour work week, and I got to do this, and I can't do this. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You got to give your brain time to relax, and you also have to give it time to render. It's like the 3D rendering thing. You got to give it time to do that, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, hey, so we threw a lot of information to folks today. What's your takeaway?
Well, you can tell me after we get off the air here, but I don't think I rambled as much as usual for the old 11%er. So I'm thinking that's a progress.
That's progress.
Yeah.
That's progress.
But I really found this topic really interesting, and there's a lot to it, but I still will go all the way back to the very beginning I wish I knew who had actually said this and where this quote came from, but that your instinct is pattern recognition. And the reason I say that and why I think it's so important is not because I'm trying to explain what instinct is about. What I'm trying to do is encourage people to trust their instinct. And because I think when people don't trust their instinct, they come up with logical excuses. And what I want to say is it's your brain actually using logic to make those decisions. So trust your instinct. It's especially when it's just like that alarm bell level instinct.
Well, I mean, think about it. We pay more for experience. The more experience you got, the more skills that you have. Your job, even if you're not a self-employed person, your job, you get paid more for knowing these things.
Yeah.
Which also means that the world loves your pattern recognition. Right? That's what experience is. So, Very cool, man. Hey, don't forget to go check out MikeandBlaine.com. New merch. You have to get the all over logo shirt. That Blaine designed, right? It's like angel wings on the back of your shirt.
It's totally cool.
It is. I'm getting one.
Yeah, no, I'm digging that, and the mug I just think is really fun too. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss one of our episodes. We're at 77 here, next week 78. Make sure you subscribe. I know right now you might be, if you're watching us live, still go over to your favorite podcasting software, or if you're on YouTube or whatever, subscribe to us so that you catch all of our episodes, because we're on here every single week.
All right, season 3 is off to a great start, and it's all because of my man Blaine Birch
and Mike Mylan. Blaine and Mike. See you next week, guys.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com, then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.